Hey guys, DB Rye here, and today, I guess I'm doing my very first Scream video, as in Scream, the horror movie franchise. Just basically mainly getting into the whole theory that Roman Bridger, the main antagonist from Scream 3, was in fact in Scream 1. Or was he? Now, the one thing that I really like about this theory, and I was sort of thinking about this even before I saw some other YouTube content about it, so it's kind of interesting to see that there are other people like me who at least had the possibility that Roman Bridger may have actually been in Scream 1, as well as Scream 3. After all, as we find out in Scream 3, that Roman Bridger was actually responsible for everything. He's the one who told Billy Loomis that it was in fact Maureen Prescott that was sleeping with him and caused his mother to up and abandon him, and of course set off his motivation for him to start his own little killing spree, and of course starting with the murder of Maureen Prescott and the framing of Cotton Weary. And then of course we had the events of the first Scream, leading up to the events of the first Scream playing out. Now, exactly 1 year later, and, well, whether or not Roman Bridger actually appeared in the first movie or had anything to do with bringing Mrs. Loomis back into the fold in Scream 2 remains to be a mystery and remains to be answered. And of course they never do answer it. And well, there are some things in the first Scream that does at least seem to suggest that Roman Bridger may have had some involvement in Scream 1. Now, unclear whether or not Roman Bridger actually killed any of the victims in the first one, but it is definitely possible that he existed throughout the first Scream. Either that or someone, edited some of the scenes wrong and created some slight inconsistencies with Billy and Stu. Now, I'll get into what I mean by that in a second, but first I do want to sort of get into one of the biggest theories I've seen in there, and I do understand why a lot of people think this, but however I myself do not believe this one little bit. The scene where Sydney's in the girls' bathroom, and she is attacked by one of the killers in the toilet. Now, I don't think this was Stu for one minute. However, I don't believe the theory that it was Roman Bridger either. Now, I do admit that in that scene, Ghostface does yell and does a similar yell to what Roman Bridger does when he gets shot at the end of the third film. I do understand and acknowledge that, but I don't think that Roman Bridger was actually there. I don't think that was him attacking Sydney and killing Principal Himbry at the school. I actually think Billy Loomis did that. And, well, to be honest, the only real reason that I actually think this is because the scene just before he bursts out of the cubicle to attack Sydney, we do see a little bit of what the killer was wearing underneath his cloak. We saw brown boots and a pair of jeans, very much similar to what Billy Loomis was wearing that same day when she bumps into him in the hallway, as well as what we see later on at the party. Which is why I think it was actually Billy Loomis that attacked Sydney in the hallway, and also, not in the hallway, sorry, in the girls' bathroom, as well as killing Principal Himbry later, a couple of scenes later in the film. So I believe that was actually Billy Loomis's doing. However, it would have been cool if that was Roman Bridger, because that opens up the possibility of there being a third killer that, who killed who could have been literally any one of the three, and it would have made like Scream 3 like Roman Bridger's second attempt to get rid of Sidney, if that were the case. But I actually don't think Roman Bridger had anything to do with the actual murders that took place. I don't think he was there actually doing any of the killing. Now, is it possible we could have had Roman Bridger, or maybe the directors looked at the scenes later and then saw the scenes for themselves and was like, oh, hang on, you know what? We could open up the possibility of a third killer, and that's how Roman Bridger is maybe introduced for the third film. Well, so now that we've covered that basis, and I've covered the girls' bathroom scene, it's still possible that we could have had Roman Bridger in the film, even though he didn't actually do anything in the film. But it is possible that we did see him in the Ghostface costume outside Sidney Prescott's home when Tatum and Sidney are having that discussion about, oh, but if Cotton Weary was set up, how come he couldn't prove it in court? If he really was sleeping with my mother, why couldn't he prove it in court? That whole thing when they're having that conversation about Cotton Weary and Sidney's mother. When Sidney's starting to have doubts that maybe Cotton Weary, in fact, wasn't the person who killed her mother all those years ago. Oh, not all those years ago. 1 year ago, sorry. Anyway, after they have their conversation, they're going to drive into town. You see that there's a creep running around in the Ghostface costume, watching the two of them. Now, whether or not it was actually just one of these other pranksters who were seen earlier running around in the Ghostface costume, being a creep, it's possible that individual who followed them, who was watching them at Sidney's place, and then watching them again in the grocery store, it's possible it could have been Roman Bridger, could have been the one watching them. After all, during that time, I think it's sort of set up that Billy and Stu were in the video store talking with Randy when this was going down. Whether or not that was by design or the mistake of the editor, I don't know, but you could easily just assume with that scene that Roman Bridger was on the film. Like, you could leave that up to the individual watching the film, whether or not Roman Bridger was in Scream 1 or not. So, with there not really any real definitive proof that Roman Bridger was in Scream 1, you could just basically just using those inconsistencies go, oh yeah, that guy could easily be Roman Bridger. After all, Billy and Stu are in the video store talking with Randy at the time. So, basically, my thoughts now. And one of the other things I do like about Scream, it's one of those films you can watch a bunch of times but see something different every time. And, by myself, I actually don't really find the Scream movies very terrifying or scary. I do like how they set up the killer and the killer of the story in the stories. Like, the killer has personality, he's out to get you, and he's not like Jaws the Shark like they did with Michael Myers and killers such as Jason Voorhees. He's not Jaws the Shark. And I find Ghostface is quite an intelligent and smart in terms of being the serial killer he is in the movies. He calls people up, he uses psychological warfare to get them in a state of panic. After all, you start panicking, you lose your you may lose how you might normally handle a situation. You make mistakes, things like that, because you're panicking. It's realistic fact, and makes probably what Billy and Stu do, well, any of the killers who wear the Ghostface, use the whole Ghostface gimmick to wipe out their victims. So as far as being an intelligent serial killer, Ghostface is definitely up there. And that's what I find most intriguing about the character. He's actually very smart, very calculating how he goes after his victims. Just unfortunately, with Billy and Stu, they tend to be I don't find the Scream movies really that scary and terrifying, due to, well, pretty much, you see the killer everywhere, he's waving his knife around, it gets less scary every time you watch it, but anyway, not the point, but as far as the intriguing character that Ghostface is, and what he does, he's a killer with personality and all that, and especially likes to use psychological warfare to get his victims into a panic before he strikes, affecting their thinking and how they may normally handle the situation. I find that, yes, he's a very intelligent serial killer, and actually, Ghostface himself was a very intriguing and interesting idea, which is what I do like about the Scream films. Now, wasn't you? So yeah, Wes Craven did an awesome job with that franchise. And, the TV series, to me, just as intriguing, and they actually did manage to make, at least in the first 2 seasons, the Lakewood Slasher, I think that was the name of the town, Lakewood. Either way, still Ghostface to me as far as I'm concerned. They actually did manage to make the character a bit terrifying in that series, because they had to drag things out, and with the series, it was like each season was nearly 10 to 12, 13 episodes long, so a lot more terrifying things happened, and they had to, build that suspense for when stuff happened, and more twists and turns, which is what made at least the first 2 seasons quite successful. I haven't seen the 3rd season, I'm not sure I really want to. I don't know, I saw some bits and pieces from Scene 3, like some scenes people shared, I don't know, for some reason just didn't really like the feel of it. I think it's because they went with, a different cast of characters in Season 3, where I was liking what they were doing with, they left the whole Kieran murder in the series unsolved. Who got him, and what was he going to do? Was he going to go after Emma and the others too? Well, we'll never know, because they went with a completely different story in Season 3. Ah, well. Now, getting back into the events of the movie Scream 1. Now, seeing some of the way some of the scenes were edited, it's very easy to come up with the thought that Roman Bridger could have been in Scream 1, or involved in some of the killings in some sort of way. Like, I don't think he actually killed anyone in Scream 1, but I do think that, yes, it is very possible he was at least involved at some point. Now, first of all, the theory that Roman Bridger was the Ghostface that attacks Sydney in the girls' bathroom in that one scene. And while I do admit the yell, yes, definitely is indeed similar to how Roman Bridges is yelling at the end of Scream 3 when he's getting shot at by Dewey at the end. I don't actually think it was Roman Bridger that attacked Sydney in the bathroom. I actually think it was Billy Loomis that did that. And the reason that I actually think it was Billy Loomis is, well, just if you watch the film very closely, there's a bit where she runs into Billy in the hall. Billy Loomis is wearing jeans, and well, in that scene before in that moment, just before Ghostface bursts out of the girls' bathroom cubicle and attacks Sydney in the girls' bathroom, there's actually that moment you see the foot leave the top of the toilet, and you actually see for a moment what kind of pants the killer was wearing before the cloak of the costume covers it, and it's well, jeans, blue jeans, exactly like the ones Billy Loomis was wearing in the hallway when Sydney bumps into him earlier, as well as what you see later on in the film when Sydney goes upstairs with Billy, just before the final act of the film begins. So that leaves me to think that it was actually Billy Loomis that attacked her in the lavatory, which would also mean that he's the Ghostface that kills Principal Hembry, just a couple of scenes later in the film. So with that debunked, at least from my perspective, that debunks the whole Roman Bridger attacks Sydney in the girls' lavatory. Now, does this mean that I didn't think Roman Bridger was in Scream 1, at least in some sort of form? Or somewhere pulling the strings, maybe? Well, no, but this could also just turn out to be an editing mess-up, or just them underthinking when they did the editing. There's that scene where Sydney's talking with Tatum. I think they were outside Sydney's house when they were talking, and they're talking about the whole Maureen Prescott having an affair with Cotton Weary. Sydney's going on about why couldn't Cotton Weary prove that in court, and going on about that perhaps Maureen Prescott was going around sleeping around on her husband and talking about that. And just after that you see there is a ghost face lurking in the trees just outside the property, watching the two, and we also see him again later on in the grocery store, watching them. Now, while those moments are happening, Stu and Billy are supposedly in the video store, having their conversation with Randy, and Billy Loomis sort of more or less threatens him in the video store. And if they were in there, and assuming they were always in the town while that was going on, and in the video store during that time frame, then it goes to show that yes, you could easily say that the one following Sydney and Tatum around could have in fact been Roman Bridger. Or, like I said, it could have been, a mess up in editing. Maybe they put that scene in the wrong spot, or they just underthought it, at the time when they were editing. But you could easily just say, yep, there's Roman Bridger. Hey, Roman Bridger. I think that you could actually literally leave that to the viewer on whether or not Roman Bridger was actually in the movie or not. Or at the very least, easily Wes Craven could have rewatched the first film and decided, an inconsistency there. Well, you know what? We can open it up to a third person being there and introduce a Roman Bridger, some mysterious brother of Sydney out of nowhere, and have him as the bad guy in Scream 3. Endless possibilities there. So, I think whether or not you can say Roman Bridger appeared in Scream 1 or not is ultimately up to the viewer. Me personally, I like to think he was there. So it kind of makes Scream 3 like his second attempt to get at Sydney. And whether or not he actually had anything to do with Mrs. Loomis' return in Scream 2, you could definitely, sort of think in that direction as well. After all, he's a director. I'm a director, Sid. I direct. You know, could have been watching Sydney in those Tatum scenes, keep tabs. Okay, this is where they are now. They are definitely coming to the party. You boys be ready to take him out. Whether or not he was doing his whole director approach during Scream 1, it would certainly befit his personality and the way he does things. It's very possible that Roman Bridger could have been doing some of the phone calls to the victims while Billy and Stu are running around committing the murders. Because, yeah, it is a bit troubling. Now, who do I think attacked Sydney back at her home with Sydney's first encounter with Ghostface? I think it was either Stu or Roman, but most likely Stu. While I think it could have been Roman Bridger making the phone call, while Billy is setting himself up to look like the hero who scared Ghostface off that first time, and of course pretty much self-incriminating himself only to eliminate himself as a suspect later, which was quite the a doozy trick, because I think it's pretty well established that usually one of them does the phone calls while the other one does the killing. So, if you open up the possibility that Roman Bridger was in the movie, it's very possible he was doing one, if not maybe all the phone calls, while Billy and Stu were doing all the running around. And, yeah. So, I do actually think the person who attacked Sydney in her house in her first encounter with Ghostface was in fact Stu. Well, Billy's job simply was to go in there, pretend like he's scaring the killer off, only to get himself arrested by the sheriff, because he probably would have been questioned later anyway, and yeah, rule himself off as the possible killer with a cell phone that he wasn't using to make the calls, because Roman was actually the one making the calls. I think that sort of made things... It sort of makes it, make a lot more sense. And well, so... yes, that's basically my thoughts on the film anyway, and my thoughts on whether or not Roman was in the film. I do like to think, yes, that he was involved in the murders somehow, whether or not he was just there making the calls and directing Billy and Stu with what they were doing. And yeah, it's just unfortunately for Roman, Billy and Stu failed in their attempts to kill Sydney, and ultimately both end up being killed by her. And well, back to the drawing board, and whether or not he had anything to do in Scream 2. If you want, I can do another video on that, because I'll most likely be watching Scream 2 tonight, having rewatching the first one last night, and I'll see if there's a way that, if it's actually possible, that Roman had a hand in the second one as well, because I think that would actually bring a more interesting flair as you're watching the films. Anyways, I'll be back with that one another time. I'll talk about Scream 2 and whether or not Roman Bridger had any possible involvement in Scream 2. And well... I'll be back again for I'll be back again for more videos next time. Of course, leave your thoughts in the comments if you have any thoughts on the matter, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you're not, for Dragon Ball What Ifs, my content, of course, my skating videos when I'm trying out tricks and whatnot, and skating tutorials for basic beginners. Pretty much literally everything and anything else I do on this channel. Alright, I will see you guys again next time. Thank you guys for tuning in, and yeah, do you actually want me to cover Scream 2? and discuss the possibilities of Roman Bridger being involved in the second film. Alright, catch you later.